So guys, we made it to the new year, but before we clock out of 2021, we have our final score predictions of the year to go ahead and make. Let's jump into it. Guys, welcome back to another video on the channel. Very much excited to jump in to our score predictions for today's video. We'll be discussing all the midweek action throughout today's video as well. And fingers crossed we don't have all too many postponements going on this weekend as well. We've still got quite a few matches to talk over heading into the weekend, but like I say, things could change at the flip of a coin. As always though, make sure to get your thoughts and predictions in the comments down below. We'll carry on calculating the prediction league. We'll have an update coming on that soon. But without any further ado, let's hop into my score predictions. So starting out with Sheffield United up against Middlesbrough. Now, as of recording, this game is still going ahead, but there is seemingly the strong possibility that this game could be getting called off due to a potential outbreak in the Middlesbrough squad. So when you guys are watching this part of the video may have been cut out, or it may have ended up being postponed later on in the day. But as of recording, it's still going ahead, and I hope that this one is going to go ahead because this has so many different spinning plates coming into this game. It's such an interesting one. You know, Chris Wilder's returned to Bramall Lane with Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough on such a good run of form at the moment, winning 5 of their last 6 matches. Their midweek game against Blackpool was absolutely bonkers. When we thought they'd thrown it away, they brought it back with that last minute winner, and in that away end it went off. It looked like an absolutely cracking away end to be in. But from Sheffield United's point of view, I mean, they've not played in quite some time now, since the 20th of December, and this break, through no fault of their own, has really come at the worst possible time for them, because they were really starting to, you know, get together a little bit of momentum. And if this game's called off as well, it'll be almost a month until, you know, they next play Championship football compared to when they last had a game, because of the FA Cup matches coming up next. So for a prediction in this one, I don't think there'll be all too much to separate them. I'll go for a 1-1 draw. FIFA's going 2-0 Sheff United. I just hope that the game goes ahead. Next up, we then go to Bloomfield Road for Blackpool up against Hull. Blackpool obviously involved in a bonkers game in midweek, losing it in the last minute to Middlesbrough. And there has been maybe a little bit of an air of misfortune about Blackpool's last couple of matches, you know, losing that one late on against Borough, the late turnaround from Huddersfield last time around as well. But this is an interesting game because Hull haven't been in action for the last couple of game weeks due to games being postponed due to COVID and things like that. And what I think we could see is teams being a little bit sluggish when they have had that little bit of a break because of COVID and things like that, to actually get back into the swing of things. And with Blackpool having a little bit of misfortune about them recently, a lot of Blackpool's issues at the club at the moment seem to be revolving around actually having players out injured. I know they have had a couple of COVID cases and things like that, but their squad looks to be light by way of actual injuries, especially in those midfield areas, which they've sort of had to patch up over the last few game weeks. But the 11 that they managed to string together against Middlesbrough was a little bit stronger than I originally thought it would be. So coming into this one, maybe with that bit more freshness, just because they've had that time together on the training pitch, I'm going to back Blackpool for a win in this one. I'm going to go 2-1 Blackpool and say that maybe Hull will be a little bit sluggish after the break in action that they've had. FIFA's going 1-0 Blackpool. I'll go 2-1 Blackpool. Could go either way, that one. Next up, we then head to Ashton Gate for Bristol City up against Millwall. Millwall with a great win in midweek. 1-0 over Coventry. Left it fairly late in that game, but good to get back to winning ways after the little break in their season that they've had. Bristol City, on the other hand, oh so frustrating. A 2-1 loss to QPR, where, to be honest, the overall performance looked pretty decent, especially with what we've sort of become accustomed to recently with Bristol City. It was a fantastic start to the game. They got that lead early on, but as has been the case with one too many matches for Bristol City so far this season, they failed to capitalise on that 1-goal lead, couldn't get that second goal over the line, and eventually QPR managed to creep back into it. The referee by the end of this one, I'm sure, wasn't the most popular man in Ashton Gate, but a penalty and a late winner for QPR means that Bristol City fall to another defeat at home. Millwall have been a little bit patchy in terms of their form. I don't think that they've registered back-to-back wins in the Championship since all the way back in October, so they can be a little bit unreliable. And with Bristol City getting a little bit unlucky with that game against QPR, they had the red card in that one as well for Andy King. I'm going to say this one's going to finish level. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw for this game, with FIFA going 1-0 Millwall. Next up then we go to St Andrews for Birmingham up against QPR. Now Birmingham we've not seen in action for quite some time now. The last couple of matches have been called off, and I don't know if those games being called off have particularly come at like a good or bad time for Birmingham in their season, because they were coming into that break on a really bad run of form. The last time we saw Birmingham in action was that really quite dismal performance away at Ewood Park as they shipped 4 goals in that game, and it sort of leaves you with a bad taste in your mouth over these games which have been suspended. But maybe Lee Bowyer's had a little bit more time to sort of tinker with a few things and maybe get a few more fresh ideas coming into this game against QPR, who were in action in midweek with a fantastic win, late winner from Johan Barber to give them all 3 points against Bristol City, albeit with the full performance over the 90 minutes. Didn't look to be the most convincing. It looked like Bristol City had the better of it for the majority of it, but in those moments when it mattered, you know, in stoppage time of both the first and second half, QPR came up with 2 moments of quality. They do look to be fairly stretched though in terms of numbers at the moment. Not having Chair available to them is quite the blow, and they only named 5 subs on the bench, which I thought was interesting in midweek. So surely we see something from Birmingham in this game. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. FIFA's going 1-0 QPR. Next up then to Ewood Park and to potentially the game of the weekend for Blackburn up against Huddersfield. Certainly 2 of the most informed sides in the Championship at the moment. Blackburn putting another win onto their unbeaten streak in midweek with quite a comfortable 2-1 over Barnsley in the end. Probably should have scored more than the 2 goals they eventually went on to get in that game. But this could be quite the banana skin up against a Huddersfield side who have won their last 3 matches in the league. These 2 sides, from my predictions at the start of the season, have probably proved me wrong way more than anyone else. I both have them, you know, well cemented in the bottom half of the Championship, and they're both flying high in the top 6 at the moment. Huddersfield especially have really caught me off guard recently with this upturn in form, especially away from home where their performances have picked up. You know, 3 points at the City Ground in midweek was a fantastic result. Dwayne Holmes with the goal in that one, albeit I think they had to ride their luck a little bit in terms of, you know, Forest being quite wasteful in front of goal, them like hitting the bar, side netting and things like that. But brilliant result, back-to-back wins on the road. And I remember the reverse fixture earlier on in the season in this game being an absolute cracker. Huddersfield won it 3-2 in the end, and I think we may see a flip of the script in this one. I'm just going to edge Blackburn ever so slightly, but Huddersfield will put up a good fight in this one. I'm going to go 3-2 Blackburn. I fancy quite a few goals to be scored in this game. Both teams are playing some really nice football at the moment, so I'm hoping that it's going to be a case of, you know, quite an end-to-end open game of football and they don't end up cancelling each other out. So I'm going to go 3-2 Blackburn. FIFA's going 1-0 Huddersfield. Should be a good game, that one. Next up then, and to the Hawthorns for West Brom up against Cardiff. West Brom obviously not in action in midweek because their game against North End, it was supposed to be, ended up getting postponed. Their last game, not the best, obviously 1-0 loss against Derby, bit of a mix-up with the goal they conceded in that one. Going up against this Cardiff side though seems like a decent opportunity to get back to winning ways. Cardiff obviously were in action in midweek, quite a disappointing defeat in the end, losing 3-0 to Bournemouth. It was a game where they seemed to start out fairly brightly, you know. They went behind to a deflected shot which had an air of misfortune about. Keith Moore got himself into a couple decent positions and on another day would have had a goal or 2 in those situations, but as soon as Bakuna picks up that stupid red card, there was really going to be no way back for them from then on in. And I think that Keith Moore then picked up an injury in the second half, which is a bit of a worry for Cardiff coming into this one as well. You'd think that everything would point towards a West Brom win here, but they have been, you know, known to let quite a few of us down so far this season when the odds have been stacked in their favour. Having said that, I am still going to back West Brom. I'm going to go 2-0 to the Baggies, with FIFA agreeing with me on that one. Next up then we go to the City Ground for Nottingham Forest up against Barnsley. Forest faltering in the league at the moment with back-to-back defeats, but seemingly there's not really a better game to bounce back in at the moment than playing Barnsley, who are handing out 3 points like it's going out of fashion at the moment. Barnsley, another loss for them in midweek, albeit the scoreline was closer, you know, against Blackburn 2-1, when, you know, a few of us thought that Blackburn could absolutely go to town on them, but the scoreline probably reflected quite kindly on Barnsley from that game. I thought that Blackburn had chances to kill that game off sooner than they did, and up against this Forest side who, albeit lost last time against Huddersfield, they did create chances in that game. I think they had 23 shots in the end. Some quite gilt-edged chances were missed as well. If they come with a similar sort of game plan and just up it by 5-10% in this game, then I can see Forest getting back to winning ways. The worrying thing about Barnsley at the moment is the fact that they're looking over their shoulders at Derby at the moment, who are in, you know, absolutely flying form, and despite their point deduction, it seems like it's only going to be a matter of weeks before Barnsley end up overtaking Barnsley in the league, which is absolutely bonkers. But for a score prediction for this one, I am going to go 2-0 Nottingham Forest, with FIFA going for a 0-0 draw. Next up then, and to a massive game, I really hope that this one's on. It's Reading going up against Derby. There just seems to be something in the water at Derby at the moment, because something seems to be happening there. 3 wins on the bounce. They've got the opportunity over the next 2 game weeks to go off the bottom of the table, which is absolutely bonkers this early on into the season, given that they were deducted 21 points. But 11 points behind Reading at the moment, and that is the sort of barrier to safety, with Reading currently sitting 22nd in the Championship. It is worth noting that Reading do have a couple games in hand on Derby, as Reading haven't been in action in the Championship since the 11th of December. And what we've sort of seen with a lot of the teams that have had sort of like a 2-week break between playing when there's been COVID issues at the club, is they tend to come back looking a little bit rusty, and it takes them a little bit of time to sort of get into the match and things like that. And up against, you know, one of the form teams in the league now in Derby, it's not exactly an ideal game for Reading to be walking back into. Now, Reading fans will be hoping that they'll have used this time for, you know, a few players to have got back into the squad and things like that. Their last game week, their squad was looking quite threadbare and thin, so they'll be hoping that it'll be a little bit more beefed up in this one. But with the way that Derby are going at the moment, that fantastic win for them in midweek over Stoke, I'm going to back Derby for another win in this one. I think I'm going to go 1-0 Derby. FIFA's going to agree with me. Oh, so much is on that game, isn't it? Next up then, we go to Stoke up against Preston. Fingers crossed this one's going to be going ahead, because I've not got the chance to speak about Preston on the channel for quite some time. 11th of December, last time that North End were in action. We've had 3 games called off. The first one because of COVID issues within the Millwall squad, and then the latest 2 that were called off were due to COVID issues in the North End squad. So hopefully by now those have eased. However, it will have had a bit of an impact on the sort of training schedule. You know, we had to shut down the training ground at times and things like that. Players have had a phased return into training and things like that. And what we just spoke about with Reading could apply to Preston here, with us being a little bit jaded, maybe a little bit off the ball, and not quite having that match sharpness about us. Stoke found that out last time. You know, they weren't in action for a couple of game weeks before they played Derby in midweek and looked pretty off the pace by all accounts. Pretty poor in that one, losing 2-1. O'Neill, in some ways, has his hands sort of tied at the moment with the personnel that he's got out injured, but I suppose it's up to him now to be adaptable enough to get the best out of the players that are available to him, and at the moment it doesn't seem like that's being the case. Yeah, pretty poor by all accounts against Derby in that one. I really don't know how this game's going to turn out. Obviously, it's only Ryan Lowe's second game in charge of North End, but it seems like he's been here for quite some time now, just because we've had all these matches postponed. I'm going to sit on the fence for this one, I think. I'm going to say it's going to level out as a draw. I'm going to go for a 1-1, and FIFA's going to agree with me, but I've got no idea how Preston and what sort of shape we'll be in coming back from all these COVID issues and things, so I'll go 1-1 and play it safe for that game. Last of all, we then have Bournemouth going up against Peterborough. Bournemouth seemingly getting back into their stride now. We did say we thought this could be the case with you know, key players returning into that 11. They're more than good enough, as they showed at the start of the season, to go on a run, and it seems like that could now be the case with some nice fixtures lining up for them. Good result in midweek, 3-0, and fairly comfortable in the end against Cardiff. Obviously the red card certainly helped things, and they could have even had more than the 3 goals they eventually went on to get in that game. But classy performance, more of what we've come to expect from Bournemouth during the start of the season, and this is a good opportunity for another win in this one, up against the Peterborough side, who weren't in action in midweek. Obviously their last game was up against Blackpool, which was quite disappointing by all accounts. Got the lead in that game, but another game where they sort of shot themselves in the foot away from home with basic mistakes playing out from the back, and I don't think they can afford to do the same in this sort of game against a side who can and will be as clinical as Bournemouth. So for a prediction for this one, I'm going to go 3-0 Bournemouth. FIFA's going 2-0 Bournemouth. Don't think I can see much past a home win in that game. But guys, there we have it. Those are my Championship score predictions heading into the new year. Fingers crossed we don't have all too many postponements, and the majority of matches that we've spoken about today end up going ahead. Hopefully as well, because of the new protocols integrated by the EFL, we're not going to be having any more games called off like 1 or 2 hours before kickoff or anything stupid like that. But as always, make sure to get your thoughts and score predictions in the comments down below. Very interested to hear what you guys have to say, and I hope that everyone everyone has an absolutely fantastic new year heading into 2022. That'll wrap it up for today though, and that'll wrap it up for the year as well. It's been an absolute blast, guys. So yeah, hope everyone has a fantastic night tonight, and I'll see you all in the next one.